in Camillus, New York. No, this is not a picture-in-picture. Nate's actually here up north from the Sunshine State. We have done multiple shows from Hooters together, and we had this year previewing college and pro football, last year previewing college and pro football, and obviously you've been on the show a bunch. And you know that Tortora and Alford is here with you all throughout football season. So Isaac Alford, my partner with Tortora and Alford inside a wake-up call. Nate Trout, somebody that I am very used to having on the show. And as I tell him all the time, and he stays humble with it, but my literal favorite kicker of all time. Like, favorite kicker. And you're always so, you don't say anything when I say that. You know what I mean? So humble. So you got your kids here, you got the lady here. I wonder if they would say you're humble. Would they say that?
I don't think they would.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, what does that mean to you that it's not just me, but that there's so many people throughout history that remember you, remember what you've done, respect what you've done? There's guys like Cole Murphy who did some great things here, and Andre Schmidt and whatnot, I mean, that connect back to you and back to your history. What does that mean to you to have people to this day go back to the 90s and remember that?
Well, I think the benefit I had was I came through Syracuse at the right time with Don McNabb, a lot of big games in the Dome, a lot of TV presence, and I think, that kind of fell off here in the 2000s some, and hopefully today is the next step to kind of bringing the program back to where it was. But I definitely came through at the right time. Call it luck, call whatever you want, but and I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. It wasn't about me, it was about the teams we had. 5 bowl games, a couple BCS games, so it was a great run.
A bunch of NFL players.
Bunch of NFL players.
Definitely. Some guy named Don McNabb. I don't know if anybody knows that man, but and does it make you feel? It makes me feel like I'm 100 years old. I'm in my 30s, but to know that Lexi McNabb, Donovan's daughter, I just interviewed her for the show at Syracuse Media Day, and that makes no sense to me that his daughter is already at Syracuse.
Yeah, it's wild. My daughter is at the University of Florida. She's 19 now, and it's funny because I'm starting to coach kickers at the high school. And a lot of it, I've been telling them, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I'm looking back, I'm like, gosh, that's longer than some of these coaches are old. So,
yeah.
It's definitely getting older, I guess, and I don't feel like I'm 45, but I guess I am.
So if you feel old, then I got 1 year on you, so I'm not going to say how I feel. But
yeah, it's crazy, but
yeah, time does fly, though. Yeah.
It definitely does. And we're here today at the Wildcat Sports Pub talking about a massive game, NC State at Syracuse, massive to everybody but ESPN, and because they decided to put Arkansas at BYU, unranked versus unranked, who cares versus it don't matter. So, BYU's not in the Big 12 this year, and it's no disrespect to Arkansas and BYU, but 2 unranked teams not in the same conference bumped Syracuse to the ACC network. So besides ESPN, who I love and respect, but I don't agree with today.
I think they missed an opportunity because, like you said, since that late 90s era with Coach P and what Syracuse was doing, now we finally got the program back to a level where, the team earned this right, should have more exposure on TV, but to them, I'm pretty sure they could care less, but it is a moment that for the program, you had an opportunity to highlight, the success of what they've been doing recently. But you know what, if they keep doing what they're doing, there's going to be more opportunities down the line. So, ESPN missed an opportunity today. I was watching the pregame show, and they were talking about how Alabama's beating Tennessee 50 straight times, and I'm like, okay, I guess you want to go there.
I mean, I guess we could call this ESPN's butt fumble.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you see it, Nate? I mean, this is a huge game. It's to your daughter here and to your lady who have never been to a game before. They're going to experience the best Syracuse atmosphere that Isaac and I have probably seen in at least 10 years, if not longer. So they're going to be spoiled today. Are you surprised that this is not a prime, on basic cable, most households can see it type of game?
I mean, I would say probably. I mean, I hate to say no because where we've been, but I can only speak the fact that people that have been in the Dome in the late '90s and when it's a sold-out venue, there's not a more electric atmosphere in college football. It's going to be as loud as any stadium in the country. My daughter, like I said, goes to Florida and they hold 90,000, and I was betting her that it's going to be louder in the Dome. She's like, well, it's not fair, it's enclosed. I was like, well, that's the point.
Doesn't matter if it's fair, it's what it is.
You guys have been around college football a long time, and you've been in the Dome and watched games, and there's been a lot of great quarterbacks that have not been very successful in there, just based on the atmosphere.
Yeah, and what I find funny is, we talk about a lot, and I would do this with any conference. It just so happens that the Big Ten is the conference that gets way too much credit for work not done. And I was discussing how, Michigan's beaten nobody and they're in the top 4, and Penn State's beaten nobody and they're in the top 10, and Ohio State's beat nobody and they're in the top 2. And then they say, well, you could say that about Syracuse at 5-0, and I said, wait a minute. Syracuse in 3 of the 5 games that they played in were playing against 3 probably NFL quarterbacks. Aiden O'Connell from Purdue will get a look in the NFL. Malik Cunningham from Louisville will get a look in the NFL. And Virginia's Brennan Armstrong led the second best offense in the nation last year. He'll get a look in the NFL. So I just see Syracuse's unranked teams as a little bit different based on the caliber of quarterback that they're playing. And keep in mind when they beat Purdue in that game 32-29, Aiden O'Connell threw for I think it was 424 yards. Yep. It was insane. I mean, he put on a clinic, and they still beat him. So I think Syracuse's unranked wins are against some pretty good quarterbacks that I don't think they get the credit for.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Purdue went a couple weeks later and beat Minnesota, who's a ranked team. And
Took them out of the rankings, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm excited. I mean, I couldn't pass up this opportunity. I had a lot of commitments that I bailed out on this weekend. My son's missing soccer games, and he had a game last night for football, so we flew up this morning. And a great chance to see Brady play. Yeah. And a great atmosphere. But I knew this game, once we were 5-0 before the Wagner game, or 4-0, I knew this game was going to be pretty electric, and I was glad to see NC State won last week. I know they had a tough game, just to kind of keep their rankings up and kind of put more emphasis on this game.
Yeah, and it took NC State, and we were talking about it, and Isaac had said, if you look at the way the schedule was built, it was perfect for Syracuse because Florida State, NC State, Clemson, Wake Forest, all these teams Syracuse has yet to play have had to play each other and beat the hell out of each other en route to Syracuse. So by the time they got to Syracuse, there's the thought of, okay, are they all 100%? They've all been through these gut-wrenching games. Wake, forced overtime against Clemson. So the hope is that when Syracuse got to these teams, they've already been hit a bunch of times, that it could bode well for Syracuse. And in the case of today, Dave Doran, and I respect the heck out of the NC State coach. He's a fine coach, awesome guy, and an awesome person to talk to. Great recruiter, great with NFL talent, not just college. He said you're going to know today. So everybody keeps asking, where's Devin Leary at? And he said you're going to find out on Saturday like everybody else.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. How many times have we seen Syracuse come into games where we're down to our 3rd and 4th string quarterback? It's football, You're definitely going to find a lot about your team coming into a game like this. But you know what? Nobody cries for your team when you don't have a starter. And so, we don't wish ill on nobody for injuries or nothing like that, but you definitely, Syracuse has been challenged, like we just said. You have quarterbacks that are going to get their looks at NFL, and that's just going to make this defense a lot better as the season goes along, because there's like 3 or 4 we talked about that's still on the schedule of decent quarterbacks that we still got to go through. So, you know what? They're going to find definitely a lot about who they are and what other teams are going to try to expose them. Can
we do the name test here? Clemson's quarterback, are you comfortable saying DJ's last name?
No.
So
he's pretty good though.
Papa Joe refuses to say it. He calls him Young Tua. So I'm the only one on the show that's a DJ Uyunglele. So, but yeah, he and we've talked about him. I mean, this man is throwing over 60%, had over 1,000 yards last time we were talking about him, 11 touchdowns to 1 interception. And there's this narrative that he sucks as a quarterback because he struggled last year. And last year was his first year of taking over. And Trevor Lawrence struggled. I have to remind people that Peyton Manning struggled. Tom Brady wasn't even a starter in college or in the pros right away. So, I mean, we know that, and I know we're going to talk about NC State a little bit more here, but Clemson is the next game, and it's the game after my birthday. So on my birthday weekend, on October 21st, Syracuse already knows that they have to win that game because you can't mess up birthday weekend. So that game at noon against Clemson, what are your thoughts on it, Nate? And do you think that DJ and that team are maybe not getting the credit that they deserve? Because they're in the top 5, but it still seems like people are quiet.
You know, I mean, just based on the years past, I felt like when Lawrence was there, they were so talented and good that I never really felt like we had a chance. Although the first game Trevor Lawrence started, he got hurt, and we should have won that game against us. I was at that game in Clemson. But right now, I feel like they're beatable. I think they're a great team. They're always going to be a great team. They got great athletes all over the field. But from years past, I feel like this is a year that we could potentially get on them, you know, more so than maybe in the past. But we're also have some great athletes. I've been very impressed with our team. Our defense is looking good.
Yeah.
But we have gotten a lot faster over the last couple of years. And I feel really good about our offense with the quarterback, Schrader, and the things he's doing there and how comfortable he is with everything.
Well, what I like is that College Game Day has shown Syracuse at least 3 times that I've looked up at the screen here at the Wildcat, and it's nice to see that logo up there, as well as I do want to shout out Tommy DeVito in Illinois. We both agreed that once he was in the Big Ten and he had a line to protect him as a pocket passer, he was probably going to have success. They're one game out of being, but Syracuse and former Syracuse quarterback Tommy DeVito can both become bowl eligible today, which is pretty cool. Yeah, they're 5-1, Syracuse is 5-0. You and I, Nate, talked about Coach Ligg and how important it is to have coordinators because they are essentially the 3 coaches under the coach, and they're spending more time in their specific areas. Last year, Syracuse did not have a special teams coordinator, and it was by far, as Isaac and I can tell you with our eyes in the dome, the worst special teams I've probably ever seen in my life at Syracuse. Besides the fact that Andre Schmidt did some good things, there was a game where they tried out 2 or 3 punters in the season, and at the end of the game, Dino said, well, you know, that punter was brought in for a specialty kick. And I said, well, I guess an 8-yard shank into the stands is very special. So they didn't have a coordinator last year, and it showed, and if it did anything, it pushed the narrative that special teams does matter, and you and I talk about this all the time. Without a coordinator, they were lost. With Coach Ligg, this team has been pretty dynamic, and kick return, punt return, punts, kickoffs, and field goals. So I'd love to get your thoughts as a special teams alum of Syracuse, just how vital it's been to have Coach Ligg, and you've gotten to spend some time with him.
Yeah, Coach Ligg's an awesome guy. You know, he won a Super Bowl with the Steelers as a coordinator, and he's brought a lot of experience and confidence to the special teams unit. And obviously, Andre is a great kicker. He's been for 5 years now. And so we have that to kind of sit back on and be comfortable with. He's a great kicker. I mean, his percentage has to be 80-90% for his career. And I know everyone said he struggled last year, but there's a lot of different dynamics that go into special teams than just kicking the ball. So, and that was Coach Ligg's job to come in and kind of fine-tune some things. We obviously have the athletes that can do it and put the right schemes in place, but it's more so than that. It's bringing that confidence to the special teams unit and what he can bring to that and his resume that he brings.
Well, there's a kid that you and I know, you know pretty well from Merritt Island. I got to know him through you. His name is Brady Denneberg, and he gave me the opportunity. Well, you gave me the opportunity, and he allowed me the opportunity to continue to be the exclusive first conversation he had, exclusive on his visit, exclusive commitment. And the first time we talked, it was the 3 of us on the screen looking like little Brady Bunch squares up and whatnot. So he, as a true freshman, has earned the right to be on kickoffs now, and he's been awesome. I'd love for you to share with the world even more thoughts on Brady and what you think about the fact that the true freshman that you've been a mentor to is already out there in the ACC going to work.
Well, I knew Brady once he got into a program. He never really kicked. He was a quarterback, and people didn't really know that. He was a great high school quarterback, but he knew his path to Division I and Power 5 was through kicking, and I knew once he started focusing more on it, and really that's all he did, he would become an ultra dynamic. He's an electric kicker. He's going to kick. I was just telling Dan, he's going to kick a 60-yarder here at Syracuse, and he broke all my high school records. And they were held for 25 years. And but this is just the first step for him. He actually asked me what I thought about him redshirt, and I said, because he was just kicking off, and I said, well, kicking off starting, and I wouldn't worry about it. You do what your coaches ask you to do. If they don't want you to redshirt, then you don't redshirt. You play. That's the goal, right? So. I was just basically saying you never know what the future holds, but I'm really proud of him. He's coming in. Last game, he was putting the ball 7-8 deep in the dome, which is no win. That's just pure leg strength.
Yeah.
And he definitely has a bright future ahead. And the great thing with Brady right now is he's able to learn from Andre from this year.
Yeah.
And really pass that on and really teach him how to be a field goal kicker on top of his leg strength.
And that's what I love is that, Syracuse punters, in a lot of cases, there was kind of a lull recently, but Syracuse punters were handing it off to each other. The Rob Longs, the Riley Dixons, the Sterling Hoffrichters. Shout out to him in the NFL and getting some work down to Florida. But it's like,
well, Dixon's playing too.
Yeah. And Dixon caught on real quick. And Rob Long, outside of what he had to deal with his illness that he had, he would have been in the NFL. I mean, he had the opportunity to work out Cleveland Browns, and Rob Long had a shot too, so we could have saw 3 former Syracuse punters in the NFL starting, and it's an extremely tough job. There's 32 jobs in the NFL, and if you're a good punter, you might have that job for 13, 20 years, whatever it may be. So, we see that, and then we see the handoff of kickers from Cole Murphy recently to Andre Schmidt, eventually to Brady, which that's got to make you happy as an alum here.
Oh, yeah, but Syracuse traditionally has had a lot of great kickers over the years. I mean, going back to Gary Anderson, and you had Lindo Mare. A lot of people forget about Lindo, and he played in the pros for about 15 years.
Yeah.
He didn't have a great, I would say, college career as far as numbers go, but his leg strength was still to this day the best I've ever seen. He was putting kickoffs in the stands at the Dome. Wow. Yeah. And, people seem to forget about him when you talk about the great tradition of kickers, but Andre's the top-notch guy. I mean, he's been great his whole career. Hopefully I get a chance to meet him today. I've never met him.
Really nice kid.
Yeah.
Very
I've
nice
heard a lot
kid.
of great things about him. But I'm really proud of all the special teams, and the punters have been, going back to, I believe, Carney, correct me if I'm wrong. Carney was here probably in the early 2000s, mid-2000s.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. He was really the first, I think, punter that started this kickoff with the punter.
Yeah.
No pun intended, but with all these punters we've had coming out the last 12, 15 years.
They've been awesome.
Yeah.
And Isaac, I always get an opportunity to talk to Nate, so I want to defer to you here if you got any questions for him.
I was thinking about that. How's the focus like coming into special teams? We talk about how Andre came in his freshman year and did what he did. How special, how tough is that for somebody that, he earned his scholarship in that first year, after that first year, what he did. How tough is that to maintain that kind of focus to kick? And because we see Syracuse have these contests at halftime or in the middle of a quarter, hey, come out and kick a field goal.
Yeah.
And they put people out in the field, you can barely get the ball off the ground. So how tough is that,
Well, the best thing that I could say, I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it is, and for everyone that's played football, they always have these days where like linemen can go kick, and they can't do it. I always say they're not athletic enough, but they don't like me saying that. So, but it's really building habits and building consistency, and doing it every single day. I mean, kicking is a repetitive motion, just like a lot of things, and it's building that consistency day in and day out. And Andre's been the best at that. I mean, obviously with his record that he's done over the years, and everything that he's done. But coming in as a freshman is tough. I struggled with it. He came in his redshirt freshman year. He obviously won the Groves Award that year, which is the top kicker in the country. And it wasn't just the fact he was making kicks. He was making big kicks for that team. For a team that went 10-2 that year. And a team that could have been 11-1 when we should have beat Clemson that year. But
would have taken Clemson out of the college football playoff.
But he's been great. He's made a lot of big kicks, and that's the most important thing, is making those big kicks when the team needs you, and staying consistent over time.
Yeah, and we definitely can see that in a lot of other Power 5 conference teams. Special team is very important because even like we saying Clemson, they got P.J. parted out, but they've struggled just to get a kicker that's consistent enough to be that on the field for those guys. So you can see, I can look back a couple of years ago, you'll see an Alabama team, all the athletes in the world, but when it was time to kick the field goal, they brought a guy out, no disrespect to him, but he just wasn't up to the challenge of the moment, you know what I'm saying? But as you talk about how it takes to be consistent and focus on that, even the great teams struggle with finding a guy that can do that.
Well, it's funny. We take for granted how good Audrey's been. He's been solid for 5 years. This is his 5th year playing because of the COVID year. And college football, if you've been watching all year in the games on TV.
Game day, 4 out of 5, just pick Syracuse. Just want to let y'all know.
Oh, good. So, but if you picked, if you look through the college and you're watching on TV, the kickers have really struggled this year for whatever reason. And then we have this steady, lack of a better word, steady Eddie guy here, and just killing it year after year after year. And now he's mentoring the next one. So hopefully that string can kind of continue on.
Yeah, and when going off Isaac's point, I mean, when I first started to, because I played basketball all my life. My dad wanted me to play baseball, so I played baseball for a little while. But I never had really gotten into football, and then one day I just started seeing if I could kick. And I was kicking the ball and spinning it, straight up in the air, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can punt. Maybe I could do this. And then I started to get into football and run and try to throw and try to catch, and then I couldn't kick anymore. And I remember one time I was standing in front of my house, and I had my New Orleans Saints football, because it was the first one that was ever given to me, and I said, if I kick this right now, I'm going to hit a car. And I'm on a main road, and I kicked it, and it swung, and it went under a car, and it was like, and I remember going, why is it when I got better at other things in football, I sucked at kicking? But the reality of it all is you go out there, like Isaac said, you think you can, you said it, people think they can, and you go and you see that ball on the tee, and you run toward it, and you kick it, and it line drives about 5 yards ahead of you. And so, I know there's God-given talent, but how do you get that thing in the air, give it power, and essentially throw the ball with your foot?
I mean, you got to work on the consistency, but God has to bless you with that leg speed, in all honesty. So some people have it and some don't. So
I got shank speed.
You can get better. You can get better, but I'll even say for myself, I mean, I was blessed, college genetics or whatever you want, to have the leg speed to be able to happen to be kicking football,
Okay, so the first time you attempted to kick the ball through the uprights, how old were you?
I was 14. I was in 9th grade.
Okay.
So.
And what was the first one that you made was from how far away, do you remember?
Extra point.
Extra point?
It was the first time in my middle school, my junior high school, that they ever kicked extra points.
Right.
So they saw talent in me. I just wanted to play football, and we kicked like 6 that year. And every one we made, it was like the Super Bowl.
Because I see teams up here, and they're like, we're going to go for 2.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it in Pennsylvania, too. They didn't trust that somebody could just boot through an extra point. And so the longest you've ever made on record, be it in a game or not, is what?
54.
54,
Yeah.
okay.
And that was
Have
in
you
high
ever made
school.
it? Have you ever made a 60 just kind of messing around?
Yeah, I have in practice and stuff, yeah.
Okay.
I've never had an attempt longer than 54, so.
Yeah, so that was the
knows,
one that you made,
but
yeah.
I had a pretty good leg. I wouldn't say I was. Brady's a little bit more dynamic from the leg strength standpoint. He can kick the snot out of the ball,
Yeah.
and it's not easy to do.
Well, what I love is when you see somebody on a kickoff send it through the uprights, and I'm like, that should be 3 points. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, that should count a point or something. But I'll never forget this, and again, how humble you are, and I know I've brought this up with you before, but I haven't talked to Isaac about it. So my dad would bring me to the games, and we go sit up top. We'd sit in the 300 level, and I know that Isaac and I are going to carry Tortora and Alford through the back half of this because Nate's going to get to go see some of the alumni in a couple minutes here. But before we let you go, you know this story. But I was in the dome, I was sitting in the corner, and you know how like when we sit in we call it timeout at the basketball game.
Okay,
so yeah, so in that upper corner, I was sitting in that corner, and Nate was kicking it. Nate was my favorite kicker, but I had never met Nate, and I kept thinking like, how am I ever going to meet Nate? So one day I got up, and your kids will appreciate this, and I screamed at the top of my lungs. I was like, "We love you, Nate!" And it was dead silent.
Right.
Like everybody was like cheering, and then everybody shut up when I said it. And I was like, "We love you, Nate!" And then I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, "Go, Nate!" And I was like, "Did you hear me?" And he was like, "No." But legitimately my favorite kicker of all time. And I remember sitting, and it's crazy that we're friends now, and he's the nicest guy in the world. But I always sat there saying, like, you should have been in the NFL. And I don't say that because we're friends. Like, you had the strength and the power and the ability, and I've seen kickers in the NFL get jobs that, yeah, you're better than those people. I'll tell you that.
Well, I do appreciate that, but gosh, it's so hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's so difficult, and you know, it just wasn't meant to be. I did play some arena ball, and I loved arena ball. I tell my son about it all the time. It was probably, when you get to college, it's so stressful, and there's so much pressure on you. And arena was like just having, it was like playing in your backyard with your buddies back in the day. So I really enjoyed that, but it just wasn't meant to be. I was you know, I had a great career at Syracuse, and I was very appreciative of that. I got my education, you know, and I'm able to give back to kids today and coach a lot now, and you know, kind of go that route. But it's not meant for everybody. It's hard as a kicker and a quarterback in any of those specialty positions where they only have one or two a team. And you got these old timers that sit around there for 30 years, so you're really only replacing maybe one guy a year. And you think there's 15 guys coming out that year. Well, what about the 15 years before? 15? So you got a lot of guys vying for one or two spots every year.
That's why I'm very proud. I will be proud of Andre Schmidt with his opportunities coming up after Syracuse, and very proud of Cole Murphy, who got to be in the USFL and did an incredible job, and I think he had the second longest in the history of the USFL, and just talking to him through his process and just everything that they've done has been great. So final two questions. I'll defer to you, Isaac, for the first one, and then I'll ask the second one, and then we'll do a prediction and let Nate get down to the Dome festivities.
Yeah, I was thinking about, we talked so much about kicking, but my question, I was thinking, other than on kickoffs, do you have a story that you remember that you kicked off to a dynamic kick returner and then you was like, oh man, it's you and him?
That's a great question. It's funny. So we were playing the University of Miami my junior year.
Okay.
And it was a game that we beat them pretty bad. It was one of their worst losses in school history. And we squib kicked it, and Bubba Franks got it.
Oh.
Big tight end. I don't know if you remember him from Miami. Played for the Green Bay. And
you guys won that game 66-13.
Yeah.
So Bubba got the ball, came straight forward, and I swear it was like the Red Sea opened up. And he did not try to put a move on me. He didn't try to go around me. He came right at me. He was like, "This is a kicker, and I'm going to destroy this kid." So I went as low as possible. Like, I think I was laying on the ground hoping he would just trip on me. And he did.
Yeah.
And he actually fumbled the ball.
Okay.
But the ground caused it, so it's kind of funny. But that's definitely on my highlight film.
There you go.
But I'll never forget it because I was like, well, is he going to run away? No, he just put his head down. And you know, he was 6'5", 260. Right. I mean, had a great pro career as well with the Packers, I know. He was a great college tight end. But yeah, that was probably the one that stood out the most, especially a player of his caliber.
Most humbling moment at Syracuse? and favorite memory?
Probably the humbling is I would say, the miss I had at Oklahoma. Although it was a tough miss for myself, it was a game-winning miss, and there's a lot of different things that went wrong in it, but that really kind of puts you back. And another one is I had a really tough game my junior year at West Virginia, and probably the proudest I was of myself. That game meant a lot to our team, and I really did not. I had a bad fourth quarter, and they were short kicks. And those are kicks I could probably make 100 out of 102 of them. Well, those are the two I missed in late game situations, and you hate that feeling to let your team down. But the proudest I would say, is coming back that next game against Virginia Tech, and I went 3 for 3 in the field goals, and that was a game McNabb threw the ball in the back of the end zone with no seconds left. And it kind of put us in the position, to win that game. So it's I tell my son and the kickers I work with all the time, it's not about the ones you miss, it's about the ones you come back from. Yeah. And he could miss 2 kicks and then make 22 in a row. Yeah. It's really about that kind of mental strength to kind of come back from that and not let it get to you.
Well, with that being said, I would love for you to give your prediction on the game, as Isaac and I will be doing that.
Well, I'm thinking Syracuse is going to win, obviously. I mean, just for the record, Isaac, I had them at 5-0 right now at the Hooters. Okay. And I think he had them at 1-4 or something like that. No, it wasn't 1-4, but
yeah.
He definitely had them, I think, 4-1.
The funniest thing is when they started, like 4-0, I said, I know somebody's going to go check the tape and get on my butt. And out of everybody to do it, the first message I got, Nate goes, if I remember, you didn't have him 4-0. I was like, man, why's it got to be you? He literally texted me like 10 o'clock at night. He's like, did you have him 4-0? Because I did. I was like, all right, Nate, that's fine.
So, but I was thinking about this earlier, and I really think we're going to come out with a 31-21 score today.
Well, that'd be nice.
Syracuse.
My birthday, 21 number. My dad, 31, so
yeah,
I like
works
that.
for me.
So.
Works for us. So that being said, Mr. Trout, thank you for your time as always.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, not just for what you do for high school sports in this area, too, because I know that it's hard for them to get a lot of publicity, but obviously I'm a huge Syracuse guy, so everything you do for Syracuse, I follow your show, as you know, and obviously we're friends now, too. Yeah. But you did not pick them to have be 5-0.
I didn't. But my on-record statement was, as a fan and native, I want them to be 12-0. But as a broadcaster, I'm going to say 5-7 with an outside chance at 6-6. So they got the 5 that I said they were going to get. However, I did have a premonition that they won this game, went 6-0. I had a premonition about a week ago when I was down in New York City, and they were standing out on a mountain looking direct across like nobody's above us. We can beat everybody. And I believe in my premonition. So, no, I did not have it. Amari had him winning 11 games. Oh, so I looked at Amari. I was like, dude, I love my city, but what'd you smoke on the way here? And he's like, something. But I remember Amari had him like, he goes, man, they could go 12-0. And I was like, but, I said, in my heart, I always want 12-0. The guys know that. As a broadcaster, I don't think many people would have said different than me at 5-7 or 6-6. But, you probably had them right now like 4-1 or 5-0. So.
Well, it's kind of funny because, I guess I'm a little biased. So you get into you pick the NCAA tournament. If Syracuse is in it, they're going to the Final Four.
Yeah. I quit picking because my bracket comes out the same all the time.
Yeah. So the bracket, if they're in it, they're going to the Final Four.
So Dale, that's what Rosie said. Rosie said if they're in he goes, if they go 0-16 to start the season, I still think they should be in the tournament.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's just how I am. So, but I really felt good about it, and I did say I felt we could get to 5-0. And I didn't know much about Purdue at the time, but I actually messaged you after Purdue, and I said, "Didn't you have them losing to Purdue?" And you were like, "Yep."
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, Nate definitely didn't wait to tell me what was going on. But for the record, in 2003, I was one of 2 people at Christian Brothers Academy that picked Syracuse to win the NCAA tournament. And all these people were high-fiving this, that, whatever. Nobody was high-fiving me. I took out everybody's bracket because I'm like a bookie. I took everyone's bracket out. I went, Kentucky, Ohio State, Duke, shut your mouth. I was like, I picked Syracuse. And to this day, I am honored by that. And I also, in 2016, said that they were going to be the top team in the ACC. Or no, 2016. And them in North Carolina I had at the top. And they wrote this article that I was like some whack job. And then they went to the Final Four. My dad goes, ain't nobody going to ask you for an article now. So, yeah, Nate might be right today, but I was right a couple times. So I hope that Nate is right. And I said that. I hope you had like 8 or 9 wins. I hope you're right. I do. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Appreciate you, sir.
All
Nice
right,
to meet
take
you.
care. Nice
Yeah.
to meet you too.
So that coming from Nate Trout here. See you, brother. I'll see you out at the game. Thank you all for coming out. Have fun. Yeah, nice to meet you too. Have a good time. Make sure that you put a sign and just walk like a couple yards in front of him and say like, this is the great Nate Trout. I want you to do something to really just highlight him because he doesn't do it. Yeah. Yeah. Do it for yourself. I'll go out there. I'll be like, yo, that's Nate Trout. You better get an autograph while you can get it. So I heard he's really mean. I love you. so that coming from Nate once again here on the broadcast. I always appreciate having Nate here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. A fantastic human being, if I do say so myself. So, and I will say so. So I always appreciate having Nate on the broadcast, hanging out with us where sports meets that thing called life, and always love getting to talk with him. He's a good guy. So he's one of the best. I'm happy he's happy. That's all that matters to me. And always looking forward to hanging out with the man. So good stuff here. Isaac and I are going to fireside chat the rest of this one. So
Yeah, it's that time of the day. I felt the emotions, the spirits when I got on the road. I was like, man, this feels like a good day.
Yeah.
It just felt like the whole community
Yeah.
was migrating towards the dome for some reason. I don't know why it's a little. I said, am I late or is it just feels different? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And, I mean, and the thing is, and I don't know how you feel about this, but if you're not playing at 7:30, 3:30 to me is like still a prime time
Yes.
feel to it, right? It's like it's the middle of the day, and the game is going to end at like 7 o'clock, and it'll be getting dark. So to me, I don't know. I feel like there's a different, and I almost I kind of woke up this morning, maybe didn't let because I was just doing a bunch of things. I didn't let myself feel it as much as you did, but like now it's like, okay, you know what, Dan? Like today is NC State Syracuse. It's top 18 teams playing each other. It's between the two of them a record of what 10-1, because NC State's 5-1 and Syracuse 5-0. But I mean, this is just probably the best game we've seen in a while, and fan-wise. I asked y'all, and Isaac can vouch for me on this. I said I wanted 40K in the second. I said if they take care of Louisville and they do what they need to do against UConn and blow them out, then I want 40K against Purdue, and I didn't get it. And I said, okay, then I want 40K against Virginia, and I didn't get it. Then I said, all right, I know y'all ain't going to come for Wagner, so I want 40K the next game. And allegedly, we're going to get 45 to 50K today. And if that happens, I'm going to get frisky in the press box. That's how I know.
Oh. What's going on here?
Yeah, y'all just be happy that the Cruz family isn't liquoring me up today. Drink responsibly. If I had some of that sangria, my top would probably come off in the press box today.
Can you get on the field from the press box?
Isaac and I learned a couple of years ago you can get on the field from anywhere. That guy walked from Virginia he walked from Blacksburg and walked out on the field, ate a friggin' hot dog at midfield, called somebody at the 30-yard line, dropped his keys at the 10-yard line, and still outran all the security. And I looked at Isaac and I went, from here on forward, I will never feel safe in the dome again.
It's funny, is that the same game Nate said was his last game he went to?
Oh,
that was the Florida State game.
That was the game. Oh, wow. I totally forgot that. All I remember is that was the game where a guy he was a-shape, but not in shape.
Yes.
Not at all. He was not in shape. And he ran across that field, And I just
It was the
remember
longest return in Syracuse history.
it was 140 yards from where he came down to where he went up, and he slipped trying to evade security, and they waited for him to grab the bars, get a good hold on it, and then watched him run away. And I'm like, man, at this point, don't arrest him because he made y'all look stupid. So,
Exactly. So,
you know, he was kind of like Bubba Franks. He went right at security,
what you got?
and security's like, we're gonna go low.
Don't look back.
And you know what? I credit the man. He never looked over his shoulder. It makes you slower.
Yeah. He had great form. I give him that.
Yeah, he did. He had great form. He had the high arms. You know, he was doing his thing. And I do want to shout out God today, as always, because I got to wear shorts this morning. I was like, what temperature is going to be? It's going to be like 67 today. I'm like, I'm put the shorts on. So.
Yeah, I put the little sleeves on. I got in the car and I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to have to rethink this one.
I'm going to t-shirt it up. So got a t-shirt on under this. Isaac, it's like, who are you wearing?
Yeah,
He's wearing Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. I am wearing Wake Up Call. And we're here with you in this Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora special on-site on location at the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue, Camillus, New York. And we are here for Tortora and Alford previewing NC State at Syracuse. So, NC State has gutted out a lot of games, right? Didn't gut out the Clemson game. It's the only loss that they have. They, at that time, it was the first game I think they played in the ACC. They were 0-1. So they obviously have talent. Devin Leary, I will find out when everybody finds out. But what has been your thought on NC State up to this point?
Yeah, I think coming into the season, you know, a lot of the media had Devin as ACC Player of the Year coming in. They struggled offensively. You know, we know what they are defensively with the 3-3-5 and the version that they run. They played good defense up until this point, and they kind of had to rely on that defense because it just shows you when you lose components to your team. You know, Devin had a couple of receivers. You know, Amezi, he could throw it up for the 50-50 ball and stuff like that. But when you start becoming limited, you know, and I think they lost another key player, Dave Doran was talking about. But you know what? Sometimes it doesn't go where you think it's going to go when you come into the season. Yeah, you can kind of hope last year carries over to the next year. You try to build upon that. But this year's version of NC State, offensively, they've struggled just a little bit. You know, they just barely got past East Carolina. You know, that's a huge rivalry in that area. So
East Carolina beat them a few years ago, too.
Yeah, so you know those guys was chomping at the bit to try to beat them. But you know what? Like I even say with Syracuse, an ugly win is a good win. So you just
gritty
find a way.
ain't always pretty. That's what I tell Nate Hackett. Get gritty, baby.
Yeah. Just come out with the W. I don't know how you need to do it with the make a play, but just make it. But we'll see what how they're going to come into this game. The last game against Florida State, I say they was lucky to come out that with a win. I think that was just a poor choice of last play call execution on the FSU part. It's funny, speaking to a kicker, I don't care how bad your kicker or what confidence level you got in your kicker, but if I was FSU, my kicker is kicking that last second field goal to get that opportunity to win that game. It was just, you know, but again, it's a blessing in disguise. NC State still ranked 15 above us, give us the opportunity to put that mark on our resume. So, but yeah, NC State, they'll figure out, you know, hopefully after this week when they go in their bye week. So, but definitely, I don't think many people had them struggling the way they've struggled so far this year.
Yeah, you know, and they've struggled to 5-1. Yeah, it hasn't been pretty. Mm-hmm. You know, these games have been ugly. Florida State game was ugly, and you know watching that Clemson game, that second half. They got worse. The deeper they got into the game, the worse they got. Mm-hmm. You know, and I have a lot of respect for NC State, so I'm not saying that with any malice or negativity. I genuinely have incredible respect for Dave Doran. I love what he does, and I'm big on him, big on Dave Clawson at Wake Forest, and obviously Dabo, and love what Mike Elko's doing at Duke, and happy Mac Brown is back in North Carolina. I'm a big Doozer fan at Pitt. Don't hate, because he's a good dude, and he took Servassier Dennis when Syracuse didn't even give him an offer out at Christian Brothers Academy, and now that man's one of the star linebackers of the ACC, and people don't even know he played quarterback at first, and then went to prep school and bulked up, changed his body, and became a great linebacker for Pitt. So, this conference is incredible. I think what I find so interesting is, I know the ACC had a down year last year, and the last couple of years maybe you can argue. But this year, you just look at the talent and the people that come through the ACC, and I look at Syracuse's schedule. They got 7 games left, including this one, and you got NC State at home. You got to go to Clemson. You got Notre Dame, which no matter where the record's at, Notre Dame still brings that fire because they're Notre Dame. So, it's kind of one of those games where you might feel a little jitters. And so you have Notre Dame. You got at BC. You got at Wake Forest. You got at Pitt. And you got Florida State. Arguably you could say the 7 games Syracuse is about to play is a whole new season.
Yeah, definitely. It's a gauntlet that many teams, don't even see that many. Much as you like to say, you talk about the Big Ten. I don't see too many teams in the Big Ten facing a gauntlet like that. You know what I'm saying?
Home,
Yeah,
home.
exactly.
Ohio State 5 games at home. Then they go on the road and it's all unranked. I'm like,
right.
Stop. Just stop.
The Atlantic Division is just ridiculous on the talent that we have.
Yeah.
And you might say that the ACC had a few down years. Me, honest person, I was rooting for Wake Forest because I just wanted to see how they was going to get treated last year, being undefeated.
Yeah, they were never going to let them in.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
And I knew that, and I was like, Clausen, and to his credit, he respectfully finds a way, because him and I have talked about a bunch of different topics. He always finds a way to tell you exactly how he feels directly, but respectfully. Yeah. And I wanted that too. Yeah. I wanted them to go undefeated, and I wanted the committee to give me a good answer because there wasn't going to be one.
Yeah, and Clausen's a classic guy too, because I think after Chris Elmore got hurt this year, he said he got a personal note from Dave, and respecting what kind of player he was. I remember the running back we had that got hurt down in Wake a few years back and had to go to the hospital, and Clausen visited him in the hospital. So he's always been a classic coach. Say what you want.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, yeah. So it's almost like if you're not, and again, Clemson is the standard barrier for the conference, but if you're not them, or you don't have the Trevor Lawrence, you're no longer respectable anymore. So
I said the only team besides Clemson that would get a look at the college football playoff if they were playing well would be Miami because of their history.
Yeah.
And the college football playoff would be like, oh, we could sell that. But Wake Forest, NC State, they don't get what they deserve. And I said years ago, they got what Schaefer didn't get, which was time. And, to have the time that they had to do Clausen at Wake and Doran at NC State had the blessing of time. Schaefer never got time at Syracuse. And I think that he would have started to get the 7s and the 8-win teams. And it's nothing against Dino, because it was before Dino. It's got nothing to do with Dino.
Right.
But Schaefer should have had more time. And Clausen, he said when I was on one of the calls years ago, he said when I interviewed for Wake, I told them I need time. He said, if you want this to happen tomorrow, don't hire me. And I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, I don't want you to give me this job if you're gonna give me this tiny window and that's it. He's like, you need to give me time to build this, and you need to you need to trust what I'm doing and let me build it. Yeah. And they did. And then with Dave Doran at NC State, it was the same thing. They brought this guy in. How many people knew who Doran was before it? And I don't, this man, you talk about Nate saying you got to have God-given leg strength. Well, there's some type of God-given mind strength of Dave Doran that he can see a kid in prep school or high school, and he can literally go, you'll be good at NC State and you'll be a good NFL player, because he sends guys to the NFL, and he's a bridge, man. He's got a dang good bridge. And if I was Dino or any of these coaches trying to figure it out, I'd call up Dave Doran and say, how do you do what you do? Because Dave can see a 17-year-old, 15-year-old kid that's going to be in the NFL, and dang it if he's not right.
Yeah, no, and also I give credit to Dino and some of his staff in the past, with Alton Robinson's, the guys. They got the talent, the eye too, to pick out some of these guys. But you're so true about when you mentioned the comment on Miami. It's almost like what did Miami do last year? And then all of a sudden on the scene after they got the new coaching change, it was like in the top 15. Yeah. They wanted that narrative so bad, and they've been in the Coastal however many years, and they still haven't won the Coastal just yet.
Yeah.
So
like I said, I think they've downgraded the Miami Hurricanes to the Miami Tropical Storm.
They lost a little bit of wind power.
Yeah, it came in on land and became a Category 1 and eventually a tropical storm. And by the time that it got to Miami, it was just a nice breeze.
Somebody need to have a sign like this. This is not a hurricane. This is a tropical storm.
Yeah, that's my sign. Copyright TM. I've been saying that on the show. And you know what? I never understood it. That their logo is this angry bird, because I thought to myself, in a storm, where's this bird going to go? The bird going to fly away. The bird ain't going to stay here pissed off.
Right.
The bird's not going to be like, look what you did to my dock. That bird's going to be out. So, but what I love about Oregon, and I don't know how they did this without getting in trouble, but every once in a while they'll like make Donald Duck their duck and put Oregon stuff on them, and we know that it's Donald Duck.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
You got the eye, so I'm pretty sure you definitely can pick that one out.
But the angry pelican that's down in Miami, you know, like, I think what he's pissed off about is that he was promised there was gonna be some rain for his lawn, and ain't no rain come with that hurricane.
A lot of tears on that lawn.
Yeah, you might have to cry your tears and figure out how you're gonna help to water your well down in Miami. But I mean, it's so interesting that when Syracuse came into the ACC, you're not hearing Wake Forest, you're not hearing NC State, you're not hearing, you know, any of these teams. And, you know, people keep pushing like the North Carolina narrative because of basketball and Duke because of basketball, and it wasn't there. In Miami, oh, they were good back in 2001, and it's like that wasn't there. So, you know, you can't help but respect Dave Doran. And that's what I tell people. If Devin Leary doesn't play, or if Devin Leary doesn't play in this game, I still think that NC State's going to have a game plan because Dave Doran's a friggin' genius. And listen, this game, if for nothing else, is going to be physical. And I will tell you this: he is sneaky. He is sneaky. And whatever he does, and if he's got to put a backup quarterback out there and run two running backs to this, that, whatever, and scheme differently. If Syracuse gets a lead and they're up like 20-10, don't sleep. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of Wildcat type offense ran. But like you say, he's very sneaky. If you think about the last few years, and every time either Syracuse played them here or down there in Raleigh, I would say NC State was one of the teams that we always see some kind of trick play come out at some point in the game. If it's a defensive battle and both teams are just trying to fight for field position, it'll come down to, here we go, like a reverse and a wide receiver pass over the top just to see who's paying attention and who's getting lazy on defense. And I stand by that. You got to watch out, because they'll pick moments in games to try to get you not paying attention. But, you know, we got Garrett back there who's been our savior so far. And with him back there, I'm kind of, you know, a little less worried than I would be in normal times.
Well, I might be, you know, if he has himself another day like he's been having this season, I'm going to copyright and TM this too. I'm going to say shredding the defense. I might do that. I might throw that out there for you. But Tuck, you know, he got to get out there and have himself a big game and go to work today. It's good that he had a week off, as he's gone down 3 times in 5 games. And, you know, everybody has a collective holding of their breath. And so hopefully he'll be all right and good to go. LaQuint Allen Jr., he's been getting some work in as a true freshman, which I'm happy to see. I want to see more Damian Alford, your long-lost nephew. And, you know, I mean, I want to – Rondé Gadsden II has gotten involved, but I want to see some more Damian Alford. He's 6'6". You got to utilize that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and Trevor Pena, right? He came back from being out injured and automatically became effective in the offense, and he's a guy that can sneakily get you 100 yards from scrimmage altogether. So, you know, I think Syracuse can scheme well in this one too, and they're saying, what, at least 45,000. So I hope I finally get what I wanted for a very long time, including all this season. And I hope it's difficult for me to hear myself think, because that's what it used to be like.
Yeah, and hopefully we got a damn good view of it too. So
yeah, hopefully Isaac and I aren't, you know, sitting on the top of the dome looking down from the speakers because when the scouts come in, Isaac and I, two things happen. We get put in the fourth row, and if you've ever been in the press box, there isn't a fourth row, but they make one. And all them damn brownies are gone 3 minutes before the game starts.
Yeah, exactly.
And I saw it was 10 minutes before the game started, that one game, at the Purdue game, I think it was, and I saw the guy that had the last, I remember I looked over at him, I go, I know that that's NFL scouts eating the last brownie. I don't know why I know, but I know that's the last one. And they left no remnants. There was no crumbs. It was like it never happened. Clean it up so the peasants don't see it. Dolores, bring in the new tray. And Isaac and I, and what was left for Isaac and I? Salad, I think bread,
I believe so.
and veggie lasagna. And Jesus knows I can't eat that.
Yeah, exactly. I just went. I didn't partake in that. So.
I didn't partake in those festivities.
But you're right, though. I want to like to see a little bit more of a few more receivers. But I think that's just a product of the way Coach and I calls his offense.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it drives me a little nuts. We have a critical third down, and you see Gatson running off the field. I'm like, why? Why are we running the best receiver off the field? But that kind of speaks highly of other players, that they believe in other players to be able to execute and run the plays too. But
Yeah.
you definitely want to see production though. It's one thing to be out there running a route, but if we can get the ball spread around to other people, because 19 is definitely got the target on his back when people come into the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity for Courtney Jackson, perfect opportunity for Trevor Pena, perfect opportunity for Damian Alford, perfect opportunity for Anthony Quealy. Like, there's a bunch of guys out there that, Syracuse has the talent, but I think at this point, especially in this game, you got to keep Sean Tucker and Arande out there on every play, and Alford because of height, because you got those three guys out there, then you don't know where the ball is going. And maybe you sneak a LaQuint Allen out there for a play or two, and you have him catch the ball out of the backfield, let him get out into the open field and show his speed. So, I mean, Syracuse, and what I love, and this goes understated, and I'm not going to understate it here on Tortora and Alford, I love that Syracuse changed the game. Years ago, it used to be, you win the kick, you win the coin toss, you defer. Or over a decade ago, you win the coin toss, you take it. Then it became, over the last decade, you win the coin toss, you defer. And it was a new thing for coaches to do. It became a trend. And now Dino changed it up this year. If they win the coin toss, he's like, I want the ball first, and they want to score first, and they want to get first blood, and I love that. And Syracuse, you're going to have to score early and be consistent. And the one thing I want to see out of Syracuse to win the game in this is you cannot come in the second half and lay a dud. They got to come out firing in the second half because, like Clausen, Doran will make adjustments. He's smart. So whatever you did in the first half doesn't matter. You got to come out in the second half, and you can't have, like Syracuse has, that little lullaby third quarter. You can't do it.
Yeah, and this defense from NC State. Look at last game State, what they did with FSU. They can make adjustments. Yeah. And if they can shut down the FSU team, you better be ready and prepared. Like you say, if you come out the locker room to do something a little bit different than what you did in the first half. But I agree with you. Like you said, this game is going to be physical. And, yeah, we want to spread the ball around the yard, but I definitely would like to see Sean Tucker get, his yards on the ground. And we kind of bring the physicality to them, too. You know what I'm saying? We just can't sit back and let them take shots at us. Give them a little taste of their own medicine.
Pitch the ball to the outside. Don't make them run through the middle the whole time. Pitch the ball to the outside, run the option. You got Schrader. And multiple times this season, Coach and I has faked me and the camera out when I thought Sean Tucker had the ball and Schrader had it the whole time. And the defense shifted all the way to the right, and here's Schrader going to the left. So, you got the talent. I respect Schrader, respect this offense. People are like, why is Dino winning now? I said he's got the coordinators. Tony White was a great hire a couple of years ago. Coach and I looks like a good one offensively, and Coach Ligg is doing awesome with special teams. And, you are as good as the people you surround yourself with, and I think Dino's done a good job of that.
Yep, that, and like we talked, plus you bring back some experienced guys, some guys that have been in the system. I always feel comfortable coming into a season knowing that I had a quarterback that got a few games under their belt, because you never know what you got. And not only quarterback, we just talked that with Nate, you never know what you get when you bring in a new special, a kicker or a punter. Like we were saying, last year was kind of terrible, and it was probably like the wrong time not to have a special team coach when you're trying to break in new punters and stuff like that. And that just makes even Andre freshman year so much special because he didn't have, I don't think he had that torch that we talked about in the first half of somebody passing it along to him the way the punters was doing it.
Yeah.
And now you can build that, handing it off. Hey, I can sit back and learn and watch how you do it and get the confidence to do it and go out when you get past the torch. But definitely this team just got to take advantage of, like you say, whatever NC State's giving them. If it's dink and dunk a little bit, take advantage of that, But like you say, score early and often, keep the pressure on them, because especially if Leary's not playing, they're going to have to come out that shell of trying to just run the ball if that's what they're thinking about coming in and doing in this game. So.
Yeah, and Max von Marburg is doing a good job punting the ball this year. So shout out to him, shout out to Brady Denneberg, shout out to Trevor Pena, and to all of our awesome specialists, and of course Andre Schmidt. So with that being said, prediction time: score, win.
Oh, score and win. I'm going to go SU 38, NC State 24.
Well, that's interesting. I'm going Syracuse 38, NC State 21. So, and Nate, so you went 38-24 SU, 38-21 SU. He went 31-21 SU.
Okay.
So we're all in a similar field right now. We're all picking Syracuse. Most of game day also picked Syracuse, so we'll see what happens. For now, this is Tortora and Alford from the Wildcat Sports Pub on this edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Catch us after the game. Catch us for another quick hitter on the way into the Dome and a quick one coming out of the Dome. And, of course, listen in after the game for my interviews with Dino Babers as well as the student athletes. So, as always, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you. Go Orange.
Go Orange. We'll see you out at the Dome, and then we'll see you at Insomnia Cookies. Make sure you leave some white chocolate macadamia. I'm not going to tell you for which one of us. We'll talk with you soon.
I need them.
Be safe. God bless. No stress. Do your best. Find us on social media at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT. Facebook is at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Syracuse Orange Empire will have the game thread as well on Facebook. We'll catch you all there. And I'll have the game story up after the show. And Isaac and I will have a lot to say. So we'll talk with you soon. Be safe.